G'day, everyone. Welcome back to the Toon Under podcast, the Southern Hemisphere's biggest and best podcast, all things Newcastle United. Joined tonight by Lee. Lee, how are you, mate?
Bit dirty, mate.
Yeah, it's like that.
You know how we like to go on about how great it is over here. We get to see all the games and that, don't we? We can up to sport. You can watch what you like. You haven't got to go sail in the seven seas like a pirate to get them or anything. You've got full of replays. You've got the lot. And when you win, you've got the whole day after straight away pretty much to kind of enjoy it. But fuck me, when you lose, it sucks. So we've had all day to sit here and stew about this bloody game. So yeah, a bit dirty. But how are you going?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. So it was a 1 a.m. kickoff for us here in Victoria and New South Wales. It was a 12 a.m. for you banana benders up there. Now,
Sports capital.
I'll be completely upfront with everyone. I tend not to get up at these times on a school night. It's just way too hard for work and stuff. So I watched the first half before work and watched the second half when I come home. So, yeah, fortunately, that second half is still fresh in the memory bank. I haven't got bloody 18 hours to stew on it and try to erase it out of the memory. But what we're going to do tonight is we'll have a bit of a chat about the game. But I think we're coming to an interesting crossroads in our future, I guess, if you want to call it that, not in terms of where we're going, but in the immediate future in the season and things like that. So keen to kind of dive into that a little bit. I think you ask 52,000 people at St. James's Park on Wednesday night, and you probably get 52,000 different opinions about what's gone wrong and what should happen and stuff like that. So keen to get your thoughts, Lee, about all that sort of stuff. But we'll get stuck straight into the game. I guess the first surprise was Anthony Gordon out of the match day squad as well, with what has been revealed to be a groin injury now. Unsure how serious that is. I believe he's going to go for scans today. If he hasn't already, we don't really know. I'd assume that these players and the club wouldn't have to wait till 9 o'clock on a Monday morning to book into a medical facility to get their scans and stuff. I reckon they've got some stuff pretty readily available. So I guess that puts him in a doubt for the midweek game as well. But there was two changes with Barnes coming in and Miguel Almiron preferred over Jacob Murphy, I think. And no one's really kind of spoken about this yet, but the injury in the treatment room starting to kind of rack up again. And I think our telltale sign of that is when we name more than two goalkeepers, when we name more than one goalkeeper on the bench. It does kind of lend itself to say we are in a bit of a pickle with our injuries, Lee.
Yeah, mate. It's never good to see three freaking keepers in the match day squad, is it? It is starting to look like we are struggling with options. Actually, Eddie Howe after the game said that himself. He said, he's a little bit limited, was his word, in the subs that he can make, and that was in reference to, I think, the fact that the question came from the reporter was like, these guys made 10 changes from Europe. 10 different changes from the game that they played on Thursday, and they've got still got a strong squad.
That they won too, yeah.
Which it won 4-1 or something, wasn't it, in Greece?
Yeah.
And he just changes them to another. So he played his twos in Greece, and he's playing his ones on the weekend. And Cole Palmer didn't travel at all, and it just goes to show the difference between a club that can sell hotels to itself and generate income like that versus a club that is being actively blocked from spending the money that we think we have from the owners. Whether or not they want to spend it's a different matter. And you can see that we can't make 10 changes. Christ, I mean, we'll be playing the same bloody team at the week in midweek probably, because we've got to get through this next Carabao Cup round, and we can't swap out all those guys. We might make one or two, but it's starting to already starting to look a little bit stretched, and we'll probably touch on this later on, but it kind of comes back to the business that wasn't done during the summer and the summer before that, really, or the January window before that. So it's
absolutely. Yeah,
chicken's coming on the roost a little bit, I think.
Yeah, we will take a bit of a dive into that once we sort of wrap up the game and stuff. But it's really hard, like given our form and things like that. Even if we're in good form, our record at Stamford Bridge is putrid. Like the last time we won there was in 2012 when Papa Cisse scored the best brace in Premier League history. Like that's it doesn't matter how good we're going. We struggle to win at that ground, and it shouldn't come as a surprise. I actually didn't think we played too bad. I thought we posed a threat at times and stuff like that. Compared to some of the other away performances that we've dished up this season, actually, against probably the best team that we've played away from home so far, I actually thought we went okay. Now, like you said, we do have our limitations in squad. We are horribly out of form, and we might ponder that question later. Are we out of form, or is this what we are now? But in terms of when you factor all that in, our record and who we played, I actually didn't think we were too bad.
I expected us to be on it a bit more following the game against Brighton. Yes, I know we lost that game, but that was by far our best performance of the season in my mind. Although you could argue that getting the draw against City is also a really good performance, and of course it was. But we don't often dominate games. We don't often dominate possession. We don't often dominate shots and all the rest of it. And we very much did that against Brighton. We just couldn't put the bloody round thing inside that rectangle. But I felt that we showed enough there, and I've been saying it already this season. I'm seeing incremental improvements with each game, whilst also acknowledging that there are certain areas that are seemingly just kind of problematic every game. One of them being scoring a goal, and I kind of thought that we would take that performance into the Chelsea game. I'm not like you. I didn't see that as a particularly good performance. I thought the first 30 minutes was putrid. Sorry to say it, but and by the way, I know we played Brighton at home. I know we played Chelsea away, and historically we've been terrible in the capital until we had that season a couple of years ago where we actually sort of smashed most of them, which was amazing. But we do tend to not travel very well to London. So I understand that we're playing a very good team in Chelsea, of course, but I still think that we were just 6s and 7s that first 30 minutes. And yes, okay, we got better afterwards. And yes, we got the goal and got back into the game. And I was going to say at some point that probably half time came at exactly the wrong time for us because we were very much on top.
Yeah,
Chelsea
I thought we built it.
Yeah, man, you watch their keeper. He's dishing the ball straight back to us every 5 seconds. They're putting loose passes all over the place. They're kind of aimlessly kicking up the wings, whereas the first 30 minutes, they were all over us. They were swarming us. They were pulling us all over the place. They were making gaps everywhere, long balls, short balls, whatever you want to do, turns in midfield and leaving people on their asses. And I was thinking, all right, if we can continue this into the second half, we'll be laughing. But we didn't. We conceded straight away, which absolutely kicked us in the nuts.
It couldn't have been a worse time.
And it wasn't a particularly brilliant goal either. It was, again, just a run through the middle. And, we'll get into that. But, yeah, I'm not like you. I didn't think that was a good performance. Mind you, having said that, Eddie Howe was quite happy with what he saw. He's seen improvements. He's saying, obviously, there's still areas that need to be dealt with. But he's seen the incremental improvements. He thought we played well. I disagree. I think on the balance of the game, we might have had a good, what do you reckon, 20 minutes, 25 minutes of domination, perhaps. Certainly 15 after the first 30, and then whatever happened in the second half that you can care to mention. But and then the rest of it was just us struggling. So I didn't think it was a good game at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I didn't say we played well. I just thought the performance was okay, like compared when you added all the factors in and stuff like that. But we might a couple of key, like before they scored, the Bruno incident on, I'd say, was it the edge of the box. I can see why VAR didn't intervene because I think it deemed that the actual foul was outside the box, but it sort of opens that can of worms that we sort of found out with Dan Burn last year. Did it sort of continue into the box as well, or is he gone that far? Could you argue that could it have been serious foul play as well?
I think
studs up and things like that.
This is the thing, had the referee blown for a penalty, let's say the referee thought that was inside the box, VAR gets its chance to review. They'll say, you made a mistake. That's not a penalty. It was outside the box. It was very clearly outside the box, but it was a nasty tackle. So they might then say, but that was a nasty tackle. I think I'm right in saying that the referee would have a chance then because he's already made one decision. You get a chance to do something about that challenge as well. You could potentially say, oh, sorry, that's a free kick. And by the way, here's a card of whatever color. But because he didn't give anything for it, the game didn't stop. I suppose VAR didn't have the chance to intervene and say, well, you've made a bad decision there with regards to a decision you've taken. So, Bruno's left on his arse. The ball's at the other end of the pitch. The game went on. I don't think it was a penalty at all, but I do think it was a nasty tackle. And it wasn't the only one in this game either. There was one where someone went straight through Joe Linton, and bugger all was said about it. And Joe Linton went flying in the air, and he's like, 35 kilograms. He's 350 kilograms or something. He's a big chunk of a bloke, and and nothing was said about that. So it wasn't the only one, but it would have been harsh to get a penalty, but had you made that decision, I feel like we would have gotten something else instead.
Well, you can still, you can still review a serious foul play incident, whether it's a penalty or not. Like if you think that challenge warrants another look, then I definitely think you can stop the game you can't stop the game, but when the game stops, hang on a sec, we're just having a look at this. Like
I kind of keep up with it, man. I don't know what the hell VAR can do or can't do.
I found it a little bit puzzling that they didn't really go back and have another look just to make sure that, hey, and maybe they did and they just didn't mention it on our commentary.
I'm sure it was because the referee didn't make any decision and VAR couldn't intervene. Sure, that's what it was.
Well, you can look for foul play. You can absolutely not for the penalty because
I don't know, I can't remember. But I mean, it was a shit tackle anyway, and we should have got something out of it.
Yeah, I just didn't like it at all. But
he was through, wasn't he? He was basically.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, absolutely.
There was covering defenders or something because one of the things the COCOM said. So if it was because the other defenders were there and VAR didn't decide to bother, I don't know. Maybe it was that, but
I'm not sure. Shit. But the first goal, is I'm going to say as preventable as it was still a fantastic ball from Cole Palmer inside his own half, played on the inside of Tino Livramento, which you don't really see that often from a defender. But
no, that's the beauty of it.
Fabian Schär was probably a step too late coming out, which meant he was a step too late getting to Pedro Neto as well.
Yeah.
The thing that I didn't like about, from a Newcastle point of view, was Dan Burn didn't really react to Jackson's run until he was about 10 metres in front of him. And then by the time he reacted, he's slower than a wet week anyway, but by the time he reacted, he was never getting there. He just had no awareness at all that the player had actually made a run and got him behind him.
Yeah, I don't think any of our central defenders had a particularly good, at least start of the game anyway. I mean, Burn got turned inside out, didn't he? That when he was getting too tight to maybe Jackson or perhaps Palmer, I can't remember who it was in the middle, and he just got turned and he was left for dead and he was trying to chase, but as you say, he slows out. He couldn't make it up. That balled off from Palmer, bloody hell. I mean, as you say, it's either luck, and it could be luck, even though he's a hell of a player. It could have been luck. He could have been trying to play it down the wing like you'd expect most other people to do, because Jackson's running down the wing. No, not Jackson, whoever it was, running down the wing.
Neto,
he sees him, he's going to pass it. You would expect it to go over the top and then down the wing so you can cross it in, but it was inside. It was the strength of it was perfect. Just the vision of it. I mean, it was, and they were doing that quite a few times. They were doing these long balls. They weren't trying to be too complicated at times. Chelsea, they were being fairly direct. And we were pushing up. We didn't have enough cover. We were man marking at times, apparently, and I'm not really that great with tactics, but it wasn't working. But that ball it deserved a goal just for the sake of that goal. I didn't begrudge that goal, to be honest with you. I didn't like the way Jackson stand in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And I think Pope could have probably, instead of ball watching down the wing and watching the cross come over, then going, maybe I should try and cover the entire gaping hole that I've just left behind me. And and again, he's another one. I don't think Pope had a particularly great game. He's punching the ball when he should be catching it, which drives me up the bloody wall. His anticipation wasn't great. He should have saved the second one. Probably his positioning was off. First one, ball watching. Can't pass properly. He's useless with his feet. The whole back was just under too much pressure. I don't think they were any good at all today, really, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think, they definitely did target trying to get balls in behind, didn't they? Like you said, it wasn't overly complicated what they were trying to do. And I think you might just fast forward even to their second goal where it was a sloppy giveaway by Isaac in the middle of the park. It was one pass, and Palmer he wasn't through. He still had defenders in front of him, but they all just kept retreating and retreating and retreating. And he just got to a point where you're like, I'll have a shot now. And
that was Schär again, though. That
Yeah,
was Shaw again. He
yeah,
was backing off. That's fine. You know, he's a professional footballer. He knows when he needs to try and show them outside or whatever. But when the shot goes in, all Shaw does is stick his hands behind his back. Doesn't even stick a foot out. He doesn't try to block the ball. He just kind of like, you know, puts his hands behind his back like he's going to get kicked on the arm or something. It was disappointing. That was as equally defendable as the first one in many ways. But, you know, besides that wonderful pass from Palmer, Jackson shouldn't have been in that space, and I think Shaw should have done better. Isaac shouldn't have been fanning around with the ball in the middle. I think he was trying to do some kind of weird backheel pass or something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like a little flick or something to Bruno that
And
was
it's like
2 or 3 meters away.
Stop fanning around with the ball, man. Can we just get to the basics, please? Can we do the basics? Do the basics, and then get fancy when like you're 4 goals ahead or something. And if you fuck it up, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
yeah,
Isaac's struggling. He's only had 2 goals, still scored at least, but I don't know, man. Like, did we deserve anything from this game? When you think about it, did we deserve anything from this game? A draw at best, maybe, if you're being generous.
If you're being generous, like we did have our chances, I guess. Like Isak's, I think the concerning thing is though the goal we scored was our first in open play for 436 minutes. Like
I've got that.
We've got some clear issues and problems that need fixing. Attacking last year, it's kind of strange. Like the Champions League qualifying season, our defense was incredible. I think we might have had the top 3 defenses in the league, and then last season we seemed unstoppable in front of goal, but we couldn't defend them either. Now this season we've gone.
Can't do
our defense is okay now. We can't score. It's mind-boggling trying to figure out what is actually happening at the moment and why it's happening. And normal logical people will say like the only people who really know are probably the coaching staff because they're the ones with the players every day. They're telling them how to play and stuff like that. But I think if you ask them hand on heart, I don't think some of them could tell you what the problems are either, because otherwise they'd be trying to put things in place to fix them. But at the moment, it seems like it's Groundhog Day.
We obviously assume they are doing things to put in place to try and fix them, but just and whatever they're doing doesn't seem to be really clicking. We could go on and on and on and on about all the changes that happened over the summer, and I think it's impossible to ignore the fact that stuff has trickled down into the team. It's just 100%. Natural. It would do it in any organization, let alone a publicly facing, team or business that runs on emotion half the time. So it's understandable that some of that baggage is being carried by the players into the season, and then you've got 2 internationals that we've already had in the space of however many games we've had, 8 games or something this season. So you're constantly getting broken up and all these things. But aside from the summer stuff, the internationals and everything else, that's the same for everybody. So you can't really use that as an excuse. But whatever we're doing, whatever we're trying, it does seem to be doing little incremental improvements here and there during each game, each subsequent game. But there's only so many games in a season. Are we going to get to the point where we've run out of enough games to actually make a difference?
Exactly. Yeah.
Are we going to leave it too late? What is it? Nearly the first 10 games, as I said there. So that's, a quarter of the season almost gone. We're doing shit. It doesn't look like there's any kind of rays of sunshine waiting to break out the clouds just yet. I mean, in your opinion, Keegs, when do we start improving? Like, I know the question you just posted at the start there is this us?
Maybe
honestly,
that's the
question to be asking.
Yeah, hand on heart, like I think there's enough of a sample size now to suggest that this is who we are at the moment. This isn't an anomaly or we're in a bad run of form. It's 10 games like that. This is who we are. I think, and not just the summer window and the winter window in January, there's a whole myriad of things that have contributed to where we are, and they're not just quick fixes. Like when we were struggling to beat teams in our Champions League season, and our XG nerds kept saying that, look, it's we're going to hammer a team because all our stats suggest that we're doing everything right, except we're just not scoring. Whereas at the moment, all the stats suggest we deserve to be where we are. There's not an underlying thing, and you do when you mention the summer tournaments where the players are away, they're coming back late. We only had a handful of players that were gone for that period, and then, like you said, every other team had the same thing. Like, this isn't just a Newcastle thing, but when you kind of put that to one side, we've had no new players come in January. We've had no first team players come in during the summer. You've had the whole Dan Ashworth thing that obviously threw a whole spanner in the works during February. You've had two of the owners basically been forced out by the other owners as well. The whole PSR debacle at the end of June. Like, it's 2024 has been an absolute shit show for this club. There's no other way you can describe it. And with the injuries situation as well, like, there hasn't been much to get excited about as a Newcastle fan this year. Not just this season, but this year. Like, there's just, I think the whole place is stale at the moment, and I don't know how you can pick it up until January when you can try and get some players in.
No, look, you've just got to get through it. I mean, there's nothing else you can do. You've got to get through it, and sooner or later something might click. You never know. But I was just thinking that the fact that we missed out on Europe in the last game, well, the last game being the cup final with Man City, Man United. I wonder how much of an effect that had on them as well. Because they go into this next season knowing full well that there isn't any Europe, and we're constantly talking about how we want to be at the top of the table and we want to be doing Europe, blah, blah, blah. And we've just had Champions League, got a taste for it. We're thinking, all right, here we go, bit sooner than we expected, but we're in the Champions League, we should have been through, but we got screwed over by the freaking VAR in Paris. We should expect to be in Europe next season. And then right at the death, and you fight to get to 7th place, which was an excellent result. I mean, we didn't start all that well in that last season. We won 1 and lost 3 or something at the start there, and the same kind of questions were being asked even then. But then you think, all right, we've got the 7th. Man City will win. Easy, we've done it, lads. We've managed to do what we set out to do, really. That is get back into Europe. And then the fucking red twats go and win, don't they?
Pull one out their ass. Absolutely pull one out their ass.
Absolutely right out the hat. Like, where the hell did that come from?
That's a 1 in 50 result.
Oh, and I'm kind of wondering, like, I'm just thinking of it now. Has that impacted the players' mentality? We're like, shite, all that effort and basically no actual reward, really, no European football. And then they've had all the drama all around it. We didn't get Mark Gouy, which might have given us a boost as well to the mentalities. And you go into the new season and it's like, well, kind of the mojo's just gone a little bit, We haven't got, we've got to start all over again. We've got nothing to show for it as far as Europe's concerned. We don't have any new players to give us that boost, some new ideas maybe. Fuck knows what's going on upstairs. The whole bloody place is falling apart by the sounds of things. People are leaving left, right, and center, and getting all kinds of diseases, and God knows what else is going on. Like, anything you can think of is pretty much going on upstairs in the boardroom. And we can't spend money, and all that together. But you've got to get through it. This is the thing. This is where Eddie Howe and other managers, like Eric Ten Hag,
this is where they earn their money.
It's where they earn their money, but it's very easy to sort of sit there and smile and talk platitudes and superlatives when you're winning. Easiest thing in the world. You're a coach. You know what it's like. You win a game. You've got some brilliant opinions, and people look at you and going, hey, he's all right. He knows what he's doing. He won that game. Awesome. When you're not winning games, when you're struggling and questions are being asked about it and you can't change it, that's when you find out more about managers and players than you do when everything's rosy. So this is where we'll find out. This is really the first time Eddie Howe's had this kind of consistent pressure, probably, with regards to bad results. And it remains to be seen just exactly how he deals with this, how he keeps the players on side. Gordon signed a contract, should have given us a lift, but then he goes and get bloody injured, and he never gets injured. So that was a shit bit of time.
Should have signed it.
So it's like, are we just cursed this season? But I don't know. I think Eddie Howe can pull it around, but if he struggles for another, I mean, it's hard to say how many games he's got, if you know what I mean. But like, if he struggles for the next half a dozen, if we aren't anywhere and we're kind of teetering towards the bottom end of the table, there's going to be a huge amount of pressure on him. And of course, as he gets towards the December window, there's going to be lots of whispers about, are they going to get him out and going to get someone else in before the transfer window opens, because you don't want the manager coming in and when he's just missed a window, you want to have his own stamp on it, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be constant. And it's going to be distracting and it's not going to help at all.
Yeah. So we say with regards to the result last night, do we look at that in isolation, or do you think it's best to, because this is a bloody tough week we've got coming up. It's a really, really tough 7 days. So do you think it's probably best to, all right, this is the first one of 3 and we didn't get that one. And then we look at what happens during the week in the Carabao Cup game. And then we look forward again to the Arsenal game on the weekend. So do you think it's probably better to look at these things in sort of not in isolations, in 1-1-1? We've got a really tough week. Let's see where we are at the end of it before we kind of make any rash judgments about the team. And the manager's obviously probably not going to get the arse if we go loss. But in terms of the team, do you think it's probably best just to see how this week plays out before you come to any logical conclusions?
Well, I do kind of think it's a little bit too early to have any conclusions anyway. Yes, quarter of the season might be gone, but there's still 3 quarters left. There's still time for Eddie Howe to turn it around, and he's shown he can do it in the past at different stages of the season, not necessarily at the start for this long, but you look at him and you think, yeah, we'll give you some time on this one. But as I say, the window's coming up. But as for your question, Eddie Howe himself always says, I only have a look at the next game. I don't look at it in batches. I don't look at it as a buy. I don't look at it as a like a free hit. He looks at every game on their own merits, tries to win them. That's the way he thinks about it, or at least that's how he tells us he thinks about it.
I don't believe him.
Well, you might be right. And that doesn't say anything about how the players think about it either. Now, the players are the ones who ultimately have to go on the pitch and do the business. If they are looking at it as a batch to try and get some confidence to say, right, we've won 1 out of 3, that's the bare minimum, we can take that and go forward, then if you don't get that, or they're then devastated for the next bunch of league games straight afterwards and we're even more in the shit, I don't know. But I think you have to look at it cumulatively in my mind. You have to look at it as from where we started to where we are now. We're not doing great. We haven't won in 5, I think it is now. I think it's obviously a couple of draws in there, but we've lost 3 on the trot, I think. Is that right? Or we've lost last 2 anyway. We are struggling. One of your questions before, is this who we are? I don't think so. I just think it's a combination of a lot of things hitting us at the same time, and I think we're just waiting to break through it. I am seeing improvements, as I've said a few times now. Whether or not we can continue it remains to be seen, but I am seeing some improvements. I'm seeing a lot of shit as well, to be honest with you, but I don't want to focus on that. I just want to talk about the good stuff. I think the danger, as I say, is if you look at those 3 games as a batch, they're not easy games. Like if there was some easy games in those, or easier games, let's say, you might look at that and go, all right, well, 3 points for that one, let's say. Maybe it's a draw against that one, 4 points out of 3 games, not too bad. But you've just lost the first one against Chelsea. You've got Chelsea again. Then you've got Arsenal. So none of those games are easy. And historically, we'd probably look at them all and go, yeah, we're going to lose all 3 of them. So if you start saying, well, let's try and get 1 win out of 3 and you don't get it, as I said, the head's going to get dropped even further, or they're going to get even more of the arse, or they're going to just start performing even worse because they start to believe their own bad news. I think it's dangerous. I think you probably, I don't know if that's your opinion, but I think you should look at it 1 game at a time, especially right now when it's so difficult to see where the next win is.
Yeah, it is. And even after the Arsenal game, we got Forest away, who are flying at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely flying.
And so that's not going to be an easy game either. So
let's go in.
And I'm not, some of the hot takes on social media about keeping Callum Wilson and selling Chris Wood is some of the most mind-numbing shit I have ever read in my entire life. Like,
it was good business.
Everyone could not believe we got what we got for Chris Wood.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. And he wasn't exactly setting the world on fire for us.
No,
And he wasn't getting paid all
Callum
the
Wilson
time.
was. Like, he
Exactly.
was flying.
And people seem to forget that we bought him from Burnley, who were our direct rivals at the bottom of the table. So we paid a lot of money for him, yes, but we added an additional striker, and we also weakened our nearest rivals for the relegation fight. So
and
it was
stayed in the
and it worked.
Yeah, he was stayed in the division. It's exactly what we were meant to do.
Mid-table, I think it is.
So, a couple more things before we wrap this up. Bruno, just want to touch on Bruno. There's no doubt he's been a shadow of the player that he's been since he joined us a couple of years ago. Now, this is he's a kind of smaller micro scale of what the team is at the moment, where there's a lot of things going on with him, and I don't think it's just one thing that you can point out and go, "Oh, yeah, that's what it is," and stuff like that. I think there's the not lost, but the late return from the summer from his tournament as well. I don't think he doesn't come across as the most fittest midfielder in the Premier League. Now, I know he did cover the most kilometres last year, but in terms of fitness, he just doesn't present well, I don't think, for a professional player. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I haven't seen that. I haven't noticed that.
You have a look, and I know this is not a great thing, but like when he gives his shirt away and stuff like that, like he doesn't look as fit and as toned as well.
Oh, you're talking about even as in body shape and
conditioning? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's durable. He's absolutely durable, but he's missed a chunk of pre-season. I know if you go off what Joelinton's wedding videos are, they certainly don't hold back in their off-season either. So there's that. I think the captaincy is probably made him work. I think he's made him work. I think it's made him try even harder. And in terms of trying harder, I think he's sort of gone away from what he was good at to start with. And that's kind of set him back. And I think, and this is probably starting to kind of creep into people's minds, is I think the addition of Tonali in the team is upset him. And not in a how do I put it? Not in a he hasn't got the shits because Sandro Tonali's playing. I just think it's upset the rhythm and the dynamic that him and Joelinton and Longstaff had together. They seem to complement each other really, really well. And I just think that at the moment, them three are trying to kind of figure each other out and, you know, who's going where. And it just seems really, really clunky in there at the moment. And that'll probably change with more games and they'll get more familiar with each other. And people say, oh, yeah, but, you know, Tonali's been training, like he was pretty much training the whole time and stuff like that. But he wasn't training with Bruno. You know what I mean? So when they do their match play and their match simulation, they're going to try and work on their tactics. Tonali would have always been on the other team. He would have been on the opposition team. So it's not, they did train together, but they didn't train with each other, if you know what I mean. So I think there's a lot going on.
Training's only part of the equation anyway. You know, you've got to have that game time. You've got to have that live action to get that understanding between each other. I mean, it's possible the captaincy thing, I think, can be overstated quite a lot. Captaincy doesn't even really do that much these days in the team. I mean, I'm sure it does something, but I don't think it's quite as important as it used to be. But
I think for someone like him, it is though.
But that's it. The point about it being like an emotional burden, perhaps, is probably closer to the point of why, you know, people are saying the captaincy is an issue. Maybe it is a little bit too much of a burden around his you know, his neck, too much of a weight on his shoulders. He does come across as a quite emotional bloke.
Which you probably don't want your captain to be that. You need your captain to be
that's a fair
cool
point.
head.
It's a fair point.
Kieran Trippier was never like that.
No, that's right. Yeah,
Jamal Lascelles never like that either. They're calm and organised and things like that.
It's a fair point. I mean, I'm not saying it's not true, and who knows what the truth is really. Ultimately, we're just all speculating here. You can imagine though that it is a bit of a burden on Bruno just because you know, he's emotional. He's trying and he's putting his heart on his sleeve, and he's, as you say, he's probably over trying a little bit too much. The Tonali thing might be something that just needs work, and hopefully that'll click. Longstaff gets crucified whenever he's not doing well in the team, and he's getting crucified whenever he's not in the team doing well. So the bloke kind of win either way. If he's in the team, he gets crucified. If he's not in the team, he's getting questioned as to, do we need him in the team? And as soon as he's in there, he does shit, and everyone fucking burns him at the stake. You kind of win. I don't know. There's other midfielders. You've got the likes of Marley coming back. You've got Willock, who's still trying to get up to his fitness levels. Probably one or two others I can't think of off the top of my head, but we've got options in the middle. If Tonali's not working, we should be trying to change it up. But maybe Bruno is the problem, in the sense that maybe we shouldn't be playing with Bruno. It sounds ridiculous to say it because he's such a wonderful player. But if he's being too emotional with the armband and he's trying too hard and he's kind of maybe not mentally being exactly where he needs to be position-wise and aware of his surroundings, even because he's too busy driving forward, then that's an issue that could probably be solved if you just didn't play him for a little bit. Maybe he needs a rest. I don't know. I mean, all these things will probably be things that Eddie Howe has thought about at one stage or another, but he knows a lot more than we do as to whether or not Bruno should be in the team or not, and he's sticking with him. So if you trust Eddie Howe, then you have to trust that Bruno should be in there. And you can't change him. You can't change the captain either, can you? You can't just take that armband off him now because that'll just destroy him. So you've kind of...
absolutely. You've got to... Yeah.
And that's the beauty of having Trippier. When he's on the pitch, he still acts as the captain. And in many ways, he probably takes off a lot of the load from Bruno as well. So Bruno can maybe just kind of, delegate a little bit, just not even without even realizing it. Trippier picks up a lot of that captaincy kind of
the leadership material.
Because he does it on the sidelines. He does it from the from the seats in the subs bench. I've seen him on the TV where he's pointing at people, telling them where to go and where to stand. And he's not even, he's in his tracksuit. He's not even warming up down the side.
Yeah.
So he's always a loss, his trips, and he's been decent this season. Where is he anyway? Is he injured again?
Yeah, Dunny Hammy maybe during the international break training. So, so that was actually my next point. So it's a great segue that you've brought up, and I promise we haven't rehearsed this at all. Is the whole leadership thing? Okay, now you say that Trippier, and you're 100% right with what he does. Even like you said, when he was on the bench last year, he was effectively coaching. Well, he's meant to be warming up. He was coaching the players on the touchline as well. But if you remember, let's take this back to maybe 12 months ago. Probably a bit longer than that, where we had and I'm not sure it come across like a new thing in the UK. But it's been a thing here in Australia in AFL for a long, long time. It's the leadership group thing. So we had Jamal Lascelles as captain, which meant that Trippier was effectively the captain because Lascelles had been injured a lot, and then he'd come back and done his knee anyway. But we still had Callum Wilson, I think Dan Byrne, and Matt Ritchie in that leadership group as well. Now, Wilson, Trippier have been injured. Trippier hasn't been playing as well. He's been in and out of the team. Matt Ritchie's gone. There's a massive loss of leadership, and it's not just the stuff that they do for 90 minutes on a Saturday. It's all the stuff they do during the week with players and standards and driving the standards and holding everyone to account and stuff like that. If Wilson's in the treatment room, Lascelles is in the treatment room, Trippier's now in the treatment room, Matt Ritchie's gone. Who are the leaders now? Like who stepped up and tried to fill that void? And it's a massive. You can't. Yeah, it's basically Dan Byrne and Bruno. Like it's a massive, sort of vacuum and loss that the club's had that seemingly hasn't been replaced. And you can't just replace them because they don't have the experience and everything like that. They're not out there with the players, so. No, and that's another thing. You can't just, that's all right. Yeah, we'll get new ones. You can't just get new ones. This is the thing. They've got to build and things like that.
We have tried the leadership thing before. You remember when it was Joey Barton and Kevin Nolan and
that was more against the ownership though. They kind of just banded together and brought the players together against the ownership. Not.
I know, but there was still effectively a leadership group. They were kind of. I think the issue was that they were making decisions that the manager might have been responsible for, but he was allowing them to do it. Chris Hughton was allowing them to do it because he felt it was good for the team and it was good to have these guys involved from a more fundamental level than just being on the pitch. And obviously it didn't go well. I actually didn't like it, got rid of it. So we have tried something like this before, Whether it's created a leadership vacuum on the pitch on match day is a good question, and as you say, maybe even during the week. Dan Burn, you would think, would be one of those who would be taking that up and trying to lead. I think you suggested in the chat that, or someone did, that should Dan Burn have got the armband?
Yeah, I 100% agree that he should have. Yeah, it just seemed like an easy.
Maybe in a normal world that would be what would happen, but obviously there was lots of news about Bruno being sold and all the rest of it, and I wonder if if Man City was sniffing around, and I wonder if that was one of the ways of keeping him, like just the way, maybe it's a similar way that Palace have just given Mark Guehi his armband in an attempt to keep him at the club. I think it's a common tactic from some teams when they look like they might be losing a key player. So maybe it was part of that as well, but because I think Dan Burn would be a good choice. He's not. He doesn't seem to be scared to get his opinion around. He's obviously from the area. The only thing is, do you want the captain at the back? Do you want the captain in the middle? Do you want the captain at the front? Does it even matter? There's lots of things that could be changed, but it's impossible to say exactly what the difference would be in the end. But I think we maybe underestimate how much we're missing Trippier again, because he came back early in the season, didn't he? Then had like 2 or 3 blinding.
He was actually pretty good when he came back.
Absolutely blinding games. The team was miles better for it, and then he gets injured again.
Yeah, and I understand he was a bit late to start. He was another one that didn't come back till late because he was away with England for so long and stuff like that, and played. He wasn't like the Anthony Gordon that was away with England that played 4 minutes for the whole tournament. He actually played and contributed well, albeit out of position. But well, we might sort of wrap it up there, mate.
We're going to do our 3-2-1s, mate. Do you want to do a 3-2-1 player best on ground?
I don't. You can. No, I don't want to do it.
Well, I will say that I think the fullbacks did well. I think the fullbacks did well. I think Tino did well. Yeah. And I think Howe did well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that ball to Isak was actually pretty bloody amazing. Yeah. Right across the goal.
He actually does put in a good cross, whether it's on the ground and stuff like that. He actually is pretty good at putting the ball in the box, which our wingers aren't that great at. A lot of our wingers seem to want to bring the ball into the box themselves rather than put one in, but he does seem to put a good cross in. He's actually, and I think Livramento as well, they're both really good with the ball at their feet. They seem to like running with the ball and things like that, which is a different dynamic.
They both combined for the first goal as well, didn't they? So I would say probably if you're going to give out points, let's say 3 to Hall, 2 to Tino, and 1 to Isak for getting the goal. That's about as good as anybody. Although he should have fucking squared it, so he could have got an equaliser.
Yeah. So that's the type of hero ball that you think you're trying to do the right thing and put the team on your back, but it actually goes the opposite way and the team suffers.
I just don't think he looked up. He was surrounded a little bit, wasn't he?
No, he didn't. And as soon as he put his head up, the Chelsea bloke would come and cluttered into him. And it was all over.
God, Joe Litton had absolutely bust a gut to get that position as well. He was in because it was a tap in. If he could have found it.
It was no certainty if he did cross it to him. We've seen Joel.
Well, he could have put it in the box.
It could have gone anyway. Yeah. But that might do it. We'll wrap it up there, mate. Now we'll be back. I think, is it Thursday night? Is it Thursday morning our time, or is it Wednesday? I think it's Thursday morning. We wouldn't be playing.
It's
Tuesday night.
Wednesday, 7:45. So it'll be
so it'll be
7:65.
Thursday morning kickoff
on Thursday morning.
Yeah, so we'll be back Thursday night. Hopefully, we've progressed. I think if we take 2 Premier League losses but progress into the next round of the Carabao Cup, I think most people would probably accept it. Yeah, I reckon.
Oh, I don't know. The thing is, it's so tantalising, that cup competition. I hate it, really, honestly. I don't like it at all. But when you're in our position and you get to the end,
you just got to
take silverware and you get Europe, and that's your season done. You can do whatever you want after that, as long as you don't get relegated. I mean, that's it's valuable just for that. These other teams, Chelsea and the like, don't give much of a shit about it, but we do.
So hopefully they bring the European team in for next week.
Well, I mean, 1-4-1, like you said, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if they were playing Spud Farmers or not. So
they were Greeks.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
There was Dimmy's team, but half of the Chelsea team that played then would have gotten to our team.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. And just you got to be a bit more clearer when you say Dimmy's team, because Dimmy's got about 50 teams. So it's hard
that
to
was
know
Pano, wasn't it?
which one it is.
Yeah.
But all right, mate. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks very much for
Thanks,
for jumping on tonight. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Oh, well, the Toon.